It feels like the definition of being a noob in Fortnite has changed. I mean, before being a noob was barely knowing how to build and just walking around like your brain's made of scrambled eggs. But now we can spot a noob by seeing if they make these 15 mistakes, starting with number 15. So there is a huge mistake that people are making with the Chonkers off-road tires. Noobs just can't seem to get their head around it. Of course, any noob that comes across the Chonkers will just throw it on the floor, bounce around for fun, or maybe they'll just place it on their car, never think about it again. I mean, yeah, that's technically what they're supposed to be used for, but when has Fortnite ever been about sticking to the rules? And so pros know this, and it's the experienced players that actually keep the Chonkers in their inventory. Because when they're in the middle of an intense build fight, pros will just throw their Chonkers at someone and launch them straight to their death. It's an easy kill. But at number 14, the new plasma cannon is probably one of the coolest things Epic have added for Season 7. But when it comes to this gun, there's so much potential that gets wasted once noobs get their hands on it. So what are they doing that's so wrong? Well, to put it simply, the noobs just spam this thing. They see how cool it is, just fire it at any building, either to get a ton of loot or to look for any hiding enemies. And yeah, while that's pretty fun, it's a huge mistake. Pros know the real potential of the plasma cannon and don't just waste it straight away. Instead, they will save it in their inventory for when they're in a build battle, and then once the enemy is hiding in a box or getting too sweaty with their builds, they'll just fire the plasma cannon at it and ruin their whole day. It's like the anti-sweat gun. But next up at number 13, from one alien weapon to another, we also got the Gravitron recently. And this thing is definitely something you have to master. It's tricky at first, which is why noobs struggle with it, and also why they are making a crucial mistake. Usually when they get their hands on the Gravitron, they just pick up the biggest thing they see and just throw it. Or they love to just mess around with throwing props, getting sniped out of nowhere. It happens way too often. And this is where the pros come in, because they would never leave themselves vulnerable like that. Instead, they actually use the Gravitron for a secret purpose that only more experienced players think of. They'll actually pick up a prop, get their teammate to stand on top of it, and then send them absolutely flying. It's an easy rotation and a great way to use the gun. But coming in at number 12, Season 7 has a lot of wacky new items, but a lot of noobs playing the game right now are still missing out on some insane tricks with OG items. Take the grenade, for example. This thing is a classic Fortnite item, but in Season 7, noobs are making some big mistakes with it. Currently, any Fortnite noob will just take their grenade and throw it whenever they get them. These things are in a noob's inventory for a solid 10 seconds before they throw it at the nearest building, and it's a crucial mistake they are making. On our last episode, we showed you how pros use their markers to make their grenades explode on impact, but in Season 7, they've evolved. Now pros are actually using the grenades in better ways than before, and one of them is this new box trick. It's insane. They just place two walls on top of a box, toss some grenades in the corner, and they fall perfectly down into the box and kill whoever's inside. It is genius, 200 IQ. But next up at number 11, Fortnite isn't all about the items. Sometimes it's about the combos. And when it comes to the launch pad, combos are key to success. There is a huge problem with the way noobs use launch pads in Season 7, and it's all down to a simple and honest mistake. You see, a noob just uses a launch pad when they're in a tricky situation, and they end up falling for some of the oldest tricks in the book. They'll get hit in the head from someone building above them, or they'll get followed, and it just doesn't work out. But luckily, pros have gotten this trick down to a T. In Season 7, of course, we have the plasma cannon, as we mentioned earlier. But this cannon has unlocked new ways for pros to play Fortnite, and now they're using it to destroy everything in their way when they hop on the launch pad. Works like a charm, and noobs absolutely have to take notes on this one. But coming in at number 10, unfortunately, noobs continue to have problems with the launch pads. As I said, they use it in any situation without thinking about it. And even if they use the plasma cannon trick that pros do, there's still another, even worse mistake they're making. Noobs haven't realized that you could upgrade your launch pad by taking advantage of the new gravity zones in Season 7. With Slurpy Swamp being abducted, it's created a huge new strat that pros are absolutely taking advantage of. The pros have noticed that if you launch pad while inside Slurpy's low gravity zone, it will multiply your launch by a ton. You will go way further, and it can give you a sick rotation if the storm's about to catch you. But at number 9, sometimes it's not even about combos or strategies. Sometimes a mistake can be so simple yet so obvious, and that brings us to the way that noobs literally loot up houses. A lot of inexperienced players simply walk into a house and just spend a long time running around getting loot and trying to find where that darn chest sound is coming from. But I mean, come on guys, it's 2021, we don't do that no more. Instead, pros use the simplest trick in the entire book. They just pull out their trusty recon scanner and fire away. It highlights every single chest, ammo crate, and living being inside a house. It's probably the best thing that's ever happened to noobs, and yet they still don't use it. But at number 8, we've covered a lot of Season 7 items, but there's the wackiest of all that noobs have yet to figure out. Obviously, it's the inflatable, and it's literally a noob's best friend. You gotta keep in mind, this thing was actually made with new players in mind, and yet they still find a way to mess something up. Noobs right now just hop into their inflatable and just bounce around, enjoying the bounciness, having fun, and honestly, I don't blame them. This thing is really fun. It's super easy to get carried away. But unfortunately, the pros have shown that there are way more useful things you can do with this item. Not just a noob's best friend, it's also a pro's best tool in a build battle. When they are in super intense situations, they use the inflatable to save themselves from falling off a build, or they use it to bounce around in the late game. But an even more useful trick is to just build all the way up and use the inflatable to rotate. It is so useful even if it's the wackiest item out there. But next up at number 7, we've had chickens for a while in Fortnite, but noobs just still don't seem to have the hang of them, and this mistake is a very simple but so crucial one. Noobs are pretty much known for just running around mindlessly at chickens and chasing them all the way into the sunset. They spend so long trying to grab it, and half of the time they just run into an enemy and get one-pumped. But pros know better than that. Instead of going on a wild chicken chase, pros will just grab some corn, throw it down to feed the chicken, and boom, you got a chicken now. Takes like 10 seconds. It's a lifesaver of a tip. Hopefully noobs remember not to make this mistake again. But at number 6, chasing chickens is one thing, but chasing llamas is even more frustrating. A lot of noobs don't even bother going for llamas anymore because they spend all of their ammo and time chasing it, and then it just vanishes. It's such a huge mistake. Pros instead have figured out how to box in a llama and guarantee it won't go anywhere. They just sneak up to it, being careful not to scare it, and then box it in and get the loot. It's really that easy. It's an amazing trick that can change a noob's life, so they should definitely note this one down. But finally, getting to our top 5 mistakes, this mistake has been happening for a long time, but only in Season 7 has there been such a good solution to it. It involves everyone's favorite feature, supply drops. Now, for years, noobs have just been sitting underneath supply drops waiting for it to come down, and it is just so slow. But noobs don't mind. In their eyes, they have to, and in Season 7, apparently it turns out you don't anymore. A pro would take advantage of this season's railgun to bring down the supply drop instantly, but they also have been using UFOs as well. It is so much quicker and way less dangerous than sitting below the balloon for eternity. And at number 4, railguns aren't just supply drop cannons. They also have one of the most OP strats of Season 7, and noobs aren't using it at all. Currently, if a noob has their hand on a railgun, they just spam it at any enemy they see in the distance, and I mean, sure, they could get some lucky shots, but it's just a terrible mistake to be making. You're probably asking why, and that's because pros are actually using the railgun in combo with the recon scanner to see all the enemies through builds. This not only lets you just straight up headshot people through their build, but it also lets you spot enemies that you didn't even know were there. But our top 3 mistakes, yeah, UFOs are one of the coolest things about Season 7, but it's all the noobs want to get their hands on. And they're struggling right now because of a crucial problem. Noobs are landing at any hot drop they see to try and be the first to grab a UFO. They either get eliminated as soon as they land, or they spend absolutely ages trying to steal a UFO from an NPC. It's a little embarrassing. But luckily, pros have it all figured out. There are 2 secret UFO locations that guarantee a free UFO spawn every single time, and there's no one to stop you there either. Pros have been dropping here for months over at the Green Steel Bridge or at Camp Cod. It's a perfect landing spot for those noobs that are wanting to scratch their UFO itch. But at number 2, we mentioned earlier that noobs not only get built on when they use a launch pad, but we also pointed out that they also get followed and eliminated. And while a plasma cannon can solve one problem, there's still this one that needs fixing. And pros actually have a quick solution to this. Takes a little practice to perfect, but they've mastered the art of editing the ramp as they launch to completely destroy the pad behind them. It stops anyone from following, and noobs are still not making use of this. But at our number 1 tip, now we've got UFOs, we've got railguns, plasma cannons, all that future tech is cool. But if there's one thing Fortnite noobs love, it is flashy crossovers, and what better than a literal Ferrari to make the noobs go crazy. But with this car, they immediately hop in and go for a joyride. They boost all over the map, keep refilling the car until eventually it just loses gas in the middle of the island. Not only is it just tedious to keep focusing on gas and planning out a whole road trip, but it's just a complete waste of time. Which is why pros are using the Ferrari to literally do this. Whoa! It's working! It's working! Look, Sammy, we're flying! Woo! Dude, we're gonna go completely across the map. We're still flying. So let me know on a scale from 1 to 15 on how big of a noob you are. And sorry for sounding a little bit sick, guys. I'm really not that well, but I can't help but make videos for you. I also just want to take this time to say thank you guys so much for 5 million subscribers. I love you all so much. You're my family. It's so amazing to be able to do this every day. Don't want to take up too much time. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.